My name is Cathy Dionne. I am the Executive Director for the Autism Society of Maine. And joining me today is Mikayla Smith. She is with the Bangor Savings Bank, and she will be doing a presentation on Maine ABLE. And I also want to thank Josh Seal, who is here interpreting, and Elaine Williams, who's in the background. So I want to thank them for also joining us. Today's session is being recorded. So if you know somebody that was in attendance or wanting to attend and they can't make it, it will be available after. We will accept questions in the chat box. We'll try to answer them towards the end. So please put them in the chat box. I'm not quite sure if we're going to be doing anybody coming on to speak. We might just do it through the chat. We'll see how that goes. So with that, I'm going to pass this on to Mikayla. She's going to share her screen, and you should be able to take it away.
Right. Thank you so much, Cathy. And first, I just want to say I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for asking me to come and talk a little bit about ABLE accounts today. I am going to start sharing. So hopefully you can see my screen now. As Cathy mentioned, I am from Bangor Savings Bank. I am a Vice President and Lead Product Manager, and I've worked here for about 10 years. 4 of those years I've spent in some way working on ABLE accounts. So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm very passionate about, and I'm just thrilled to share information with you today. So first, it's helpful to understand our why. ABLE accounts are a way for Bangor Savings Bank to deliver on our promise. As a community bank, our purpose is drawn from the people we serve. We're here to help our employees, our customers, and our communities thrive and prosper. That means we're continuously looking for ways to be a better bank, to develop better products, and to create stronger communities. We want to support more neighbors, especially those who are typically underserved. Our promise positioned us perfectly to look deeper and broader at who we can better serve and how. And we know that all journeys are different, and we simply want to meet our customers where they are with an appropriate product. And in this case, we felt like that was an ABLE account. So let's look at our agenda for today. Our goals are this: to first discuss and understand what ABLE programs are and learn about the ABLE Maine program. We will also review basic eligibility criteria, limits, and transaction considerations. Then we'll look at the features of the Maine ABLE benefit checking account and provide you with some information about next steps and resources to walk away with. As Cathy mentioned, we will be taking your questions in the chat box, so I would like to save some time to address those questions at the end of the presentation. Before we dive in, I'd like to go over a few key terms that will be used in this presentation. The first is authorized representative. That means a person other than the beneficiary who establishes authority over an account when the beneficiary is unable to or would like an additional signer. A beneficiary, in this case, is considered the individual with the disability who is the owner of the account and for whose benefit deposits to and withdrawals from the account are made. A beneficiary must qualify as an eligible individual under applicable law before opening an account or having an account opened on their behalf. When we talk about earnings, what we mean is income that's gained from an investment or interest-bearing product. And finally, the word fiduciary. So a fiduciary is a person or organization that's acting on behalf of a person or persons and is legally bound to act solely in their best interest. So what is ABLE? ABLE programs were created as a result of the passage of the Stephen Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience Act of 2014. This act is better known as the ABLE Act. There is a resource limit of $2,000 for most means-tested benefit programs, but saving in an ABLE account allows qualified individuals to exceed that limit and still maintain eligibility for Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, Medicaid, and other public benefits. The ABLE Act allowed each state to establish their own ABLE program. Some programs can be utilized nationally. Others may only be utilized by state residents. ABLE accounts may also be called 529A accounts, as many accounts closely model 529 qualified tuition plans. On the next slide, this map shows in green all states that have active ABLE programs. So many states do have their own program. Some states even have multiple programs. An example of this is the state of Virginia, which actually has 2 ABLE programs. And there are coalitions. So for example, 13 stable savings programs are administered by the Office of the Ohio State Treasurer. Maine launched its ABLE program in October of this year, 2021. In order to make launching the ABLE Maine program possible, the Maine legislature had to authorize the state treasurer's office to establish a qualified ABLE program for Maine residents. In addition, we proposed benefits for Maine people, which were signed into law. Maine will not seek payment from an ABLE account or its proceeds for Maine care benefits provided to a beneficiary upon the death of the individual. Law also states that any distributed earnings are not taxable in the state of Maine, and funds held in an ABLE account must be disregarded when determining the beneficiary's eligibility for any state-managed means-tested public assistance program. So after that legislative work was done, Bangor Savings Bank entered an agreement with the state treasurer to serve as administrator of ABLE accounts. We worked together to determine what Mainers needed most, which we felt was an easy access transactional checking account that met all of the federal requirements of a qualified ABLE program. That does make our program a little different than most other states, with all other programs focusing on investment products that are administered by plan managers such as Fidelity. So let's talk a bit more about those differences. When the IRS finalized their regulations in 2021 around ABLE programs, the expectations on handling distribution of ABLE earnings fit the operating processes and systems of those investment companies, not those of banks. So as a result, the ABLE Maine program cannot include earnings and instead focuses on benefits such as protection of principal, easy access, and service charge-free checking. The ABLE Maine program targets a specific advantage of the ABLE Act, which is being able to accumulate resources beyond means-tested benefit limits without jeopardizing eligibility. So unlike other programs, the ABLE Maine program does not offer market-driven investment options, is non-interest bearing, and can only accept rollovers without earnings from another state's 529A qualified ABLE program or 529 qualified tuition program. We understand that this approach will not be right for everyone, and some Mainers might choose another qualified ABLE program, especially if they are interested in getting a return on larger balances. We want to recommend the ABLE National Resource Center. They have a wonderful webpage that can help you decide, which is called the 3-state comparison tool. So using this tool, you can choose any 3 state programs and look at specific features side by side. It's important that you're really making the best decision for your specific circumstances. Over the next several slides, we'll discuss 4 factors that are unique to ABLE accounts as required by the ABLE Act. The first of those is eligibility. The ABLE Act limits eligibility to individuals with disabilities that were present before turning 26. If the person meets this age of onset criteria and is already receiving benefits under SSI or SSDI, they are automatically eligible to establish an ABLE account. It is also possible that someone is eligible to receive SSI or SSDI, but is not currently receiving it due to income considerations, and that person is likely also eligible. If the individual is not a recipient of SSI or SSDI, but does meet the age of onset requirement, they could still be eligible to open an ABLE account if they meet Social Security's definition and criteria regarding disabilities and receive a disability certification from a qualified medical professional. The beneficiary must also be a Maine resident. Our program is not open to out-of-state residents, and an eligible individual may only have 1 ABLE account. Next, let's talk about limits. So there are 3 types of limits that apply to an ABLE account, and all of these limits may change from time to time. It's very important not to deposit over any of these limits during the time period allowed. First, an ABLE account has an annual deposit limit of $15,000 from all contributors. Under current tax law, $15,000 is the maximum amount that individuals can give to someone else and not report that gift to the IRS. There is also an additional deposit limit, which is an amount that is allowed to be deposited by the beneficiary in excess of the annual deposit limit of $15,000 if that beneficiary is employed and is not currently contributing to a specific retirement plan. This additional deposit limit is a result of the Able to Work Act, which was part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. So the additional contribution amount is based upon the federal poverty level, or FPL. We will use the FPL, or federal poverty level, in the ABLE account owner's state of residence for the preceding tax year. So for example, the federal poverty level was $12,760 for tax year 2020. And that would apply to any contributions made by an eligible individual in tax year 2021. In a few short months, we will roll over to tax year 2022, and then we will look at the federal poverty level for 2021, which has increased up to $12,880. The beneficiary can deposit up to the federal poverty level or 100% of their annual income, whichever is less. And then finally, there is a maximum balance limit which is currently set to $500,000. This limit is derived from the program state's 529 program, and it can vary from state to state. We also chose to use a balance limit instead of a deposit limit, which means that someone can spend down their ABLE account once they've reached that maximum balance limit and contribute more. We'd also like to share, to help you manage these limits, Bangor Savings Bank provides a monthly deposit summary notice, which will show progress towards the limits and any overages that the beneficiary may have incurred. Next, we'll look at deposits. So who can deposit into an ABLE account? ABLE accounts allow contributions from any source as long as they remain within the deposit limits, like we just talked about. All deposits are post-tax, which means that taxes from those funds have already been deducted. Deposits to an ABLE account can be made at any Bangor Savings Bank branch, at a Bangor Savings Bank ATM, by mail, by electronic transfer, or by mobile deposit using the Bangor mobile app. The branch will require you to have the ABLE account number in order to make a deposit. This is because we can't provide information that an ABLE account exists to someone who isn't authorized on the account, because we don't want to violate anyone's privacy. When the deposit limit has been reached, no further deposits will be accepted. But in the event that a deposit does come in that exceeds the limits, we will contact the beneficiary and attempt to return that contribution to the original depositor. The final feature I'd like to talk to you about today is withdrawals. So unlike deposits, only the beneficiary or authorized representative can take money out of an ABLE account. Withdrawals must be used for qualified disability expenses, also known as QDEs. QDEs are for the benefit of the beneficiary and related to their disability, and the money should be used to increase and/or maintain their health, independence, and quality of life. Some examples of qualified disability expenses are education, housing, transportation. So this might include a car payment or gas. It also includes employment training and support, any assistive technology or related services, and basic living expenses, which does include food. For all withdrawals, we do recommend saving receipts or copies of the transactions in the event that you were asked for documentation of your spending. Great, so we covered a lot of information about the ABLE Maine program. So now let's talk a little about the account itself. The ABLE Maine program's only account option is an FDIC insured ABLE account called Maine ABLE Benefit Checking. These accounts can be opened at any Bangor Savings Bank branch by the beneficiary or their authorized representative. There is a $25 minimum deposit to open the account. We will not be charging a monthly maintenance fee or requiring a minimum daily balance. Beneficiaries or their representatives can choose to have a debit card or a checkbook for this account, unless, of course, it is a fiduciary type account structure where the beneficiary does not have access to the account. The Maine ABLE benefit checking account also will have online banking access. And again, this would be limited for fiduciary type account structures. We will not be charging any overdraft or insufficient fund fees, and any items that do come in will be returned if funds are not available. These terms very closely match some of our other checking accounts, which is what we heard that Mainers wanted and what the treasurer asked us to build for the ABLE program. So before you open an account, it is important to think about who will be on that account. So let's look at this diagram from left to right. Here are some example account structures. So first, a beneficiary can have an ABLE account by themselves. Secondly, a beneficiary can have an ABLE account and designate anyone they choose to be an authorized representative. In both of these two scenarios, the beneficiary and their optional authorized representative can have a debit card and can use online banking. Then we see a fiduciary type account. So here, the beneficiary is still the account owner, but does not have access to the account. There must be an authorized representative who will have sole access to the account for the benefit of the beneficiary. And here, the priority order comes into play. So the priority order was designed by the final regulations, and it says that the authorized representative must be one of these 7 people in this order. So we have power of attorney, conservator or guardian, spouse, parent, sibling, grandparent, or representative payee. The priority order means that the person serving as the authorized representative must be the highest willing person to fulfill that role. And if it is a legally appointed role, such as power of attorney, conservator, or rep payee, we will request documentation of that appointment. And then lastly is a fiduciary account type where the authorized representative is an organization. So the beneficiary is still the account owner. We will list the authorized representative organization. And then we will also ask for an authorized signer who is a person who will manage the account. So this is a lot to think about, and I want to make sure you know that our branch staff is here to help you in going through all of this. So there's nothing here that you need to memorize or be an expert on. Just come in and we're ready to talk this through with you. When you're ready to start the account opening process, we do recommend that you visit bangor.com and click on schedule an appointment. This helps us prepare for your visit and make sure that we have made contact with you and are ready for when you come in. Of course, you're also welcome to visit any branch during normal business hours. And when you visit, we ask that you please bring a valid photo ID, so not expired. You'll also need a social security number or taxpayer identification number. And this information is required for all parties. So it's going to be required for the beneficiary and any authorized representative if applicable. We will also ask you for proof of physical address. This might be listed on your photo ID. If the address on your ID is different, you could bring in a utility bill or a similar document that shows your physical address. We will ask for legal paperwork if the authorized representative is a power of attorney, a conservator or guardian, or a representative payee. And if the authorized representative is an organizational representative payee, we will also ask for what is called a resolution from that organization. And that lets us know who is authorized to sign on behalf of the organization. There are also some things that we will not ask for or collect. We will not ask you for proof that the beneficiary is receiving SSI or SSDI. And we will not ask for a copy of a disability certification form. We will ask the beneficiary or authorized representative to tell us the basis for their eligibility and the type of disability at account opening. And this information is required data by the IRS for end of year tax reporting. And we will also ask if the beneficiary is eligible for able to work contributions or that additional deposit limit that we talked about. Provided that we have all of the necessary information, the account will be open and ready to use on the same day as your visit. And it can be complete with a debit card if you request. So we have the ability to actually print our debit cards right in the branch. So you can walk away with your account number and a debit card that's ready to use. So if you already have an ABLE account established for the beneficiary, and you would like to bring that account to the ABLE Maine program, here are a few things that you should know. At the present time, ABLE Maine is unable to accept rollovers with earnings from another program. Beneficiaries or authorized representatives can initiate a rollover from another 529A qualified ABLE program or a 529 qualified tuition program to an existing ABLE Maine account. And there are two ways that we can accept a rollover. So we can do a direct rollover where Bangor Savings Bank will contact the sending institution to request that transfer, or an indirect rollover where the beneficiary or authorized representative will bring in funds from the other ABLE program within 60 days. It could be from the other ABLE program or 529 program. If you are moving funds from the 529 program, the amount of the rollover combined with any contributions you have made to your existing ABLE Maine account for that tax year cannot exceed the annual deposit limit of $15,000. So to say that a different way, the amount of the rollover does count towards your annual deposit limit. And again, branch staff is ready to help you with this process and can provide you with an incoming rollover form, which we will use to start the rollover process. You may also transfer an ABLE Maine program to another state's program if you would like. And to do that, you would simply contact the receiving program to do so, and they will provide you with the necessary form. So for more detail on what we talked about today, you can visit bangor.com/Maine ABLE. And there you will find frequently asked questions, you will find forms, and perhaps most importantly, the ABLE Maine informational booklet and the ABLE Maine participation agreement. The ABLE Maine informational booklet is a 30+ page document that gives a lot of detail about the ABLE Maine program. And the ABLE Maine participation agreement is 3 pages long, and it will be signed by the beneficiary or authorized representative when the account is opened. We do also have ABLE brochures at all of our branch locations in Maine. And I also want to point out what I think is the most common public resource for ABLE accounts, which is the ABLE National Resource Center. Their website is www.ablenrc.org. We have used this website so much. I think it's very easy to use. It has a lot of great information, so please do check it out. I do, again, just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join this webinar. I'm hoping that we have a few questions in the chat that Cathy might be able to help facilitate. Kathy, do we have anything come in?
Yeah, we do have some questions that have come in through the chat. So let me start with, hang on, I got to get to the first question. Okay, so the first question was, I've been researching the ABLE accounts and wondering how we prove disability status to open the account if a child doesn't qualify for SSDI due to parent income. And then it goes on, does having Katie Beckett waiver for Maine Care meet that criteria?
What I would recommend doing, so 2 things. If the beneficiary or the child would be eligible for SSDI, but is not currently receiving it because of parent resources, then they would be eligible. So you have to meet the same disability criteria in order to receive SSDI as you do to open an ABLE account. You could also take the disability certification form, which you can find on bangor.com/Maine ABLE. There's a section with forms and disclosures, and we do provide a sample disability certification form that you could take to your family physician or another provider and just have that form completed and saved in your records, thereby certifying that yes, this child is eligible to open an ABLE account. So those are just kind of 2 options I'm thinking of just offhand.
Thank you. The next question is, how does a parent show proof of physical address for a minor who doesn't receive mail?
So we would take the address for the parent or guardian who's listed on the account. So we would collect their photo ID and proof of address for the minor living in their care.
And another question is, what happens in the event of death of the beneficiary?
So we are very proud that we've gotten legislature passed so that Maine will not do any Medicaid recovery for ABLE assets. So that's one less thing to worry about. When a beneficiary dies, the funds in their ABLE account will go to the estate of the beneficiary. So we will just follow normal estate planning process for any sort of bank account.
And another question is guardianship enough for, let me start that over, sorry. Is guardianship enough for, that just moved on me, fiduciary ABLE accounts? Other ABLE accounts require conservatorship.
Is the beneficiary, well, guardianship does count as an authorized representative. And you would be a guardian of a minor, right? You wouldn't have legal paperwork for that. But if the beneficiary was an adult, you could be appointed guardianship. And yes, that would qualify for a fiduciary account. and the guardian could be the authorized representative.
And another question is, Jeff is asking a question about his daughter is 43. She was diagnosed with autism as a teen. She was also diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 30. PD currently being her most limiting disability. Would she be eligible?
So she would be eligible. Autism is a disability that is considered eligible under the ABLE Act. So when we collect information about the type of disability, I would list the autism because it has an age of onset prior to 26. Since the Parkinson doesn't meet that age of onset criteria, that alone wouldn't allow Jeff's daughter to be eligible.
Okay. Another question, and this is actually a question I have, because
Okay.
I'm getting ready to go and set up my son's ABLE account. It states that we have to have photo IDs for everyone. Do you also mean the individual has to have a photo ID when they bring in? I know a lot of parents don't have like even a state ID for their adult child. So this would be for a 27-year-old who does not have a state ID. There's no photo. Do they need to get one or?
No. So if there is a guardian or conservator, we wouldn't ask for photo ID for the adult child, and we certainly wouldn't ask for it for a minor either.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm not seeing any more in the chat box. So let's see if we get any others here. I'm not seeing any come through. Well, this has been very helpful, Mikayla, and we, like I said, the Autism Society of Maine, we will put this up on our website. We will also, so it's going to be available probably within the next day or so by the time we post it. And there'll be links to Bangor Savings, so if people want to go there too, and to the National ABLE accounts, we'll have all that stuff available for everybody. I do want to thank you, Mikayla, for coming on, putting the presentation together. Hang on, Kendra is saying she posted a question. Let me go and see where Kendra's question is.
I see her
Okay.
question.
Yeah, can you see that? You have to read it so Josh
Yes.
can find it.
So Kendra's asking, you talked about having a limit for the account. If an account has a $100,000 limit, does this mean that the money needs to be spent before putting in more money? So for example, could the person take out $2,000 to buy a house without penalty? So the account does have a maximum balance limit of $500,000. I do know that SSI and perhaps SSDI have resource limits of $100,000, and those would still apply to an ABLE account. So yes, I think if you were receiving SSI or SSDI and that's how you were eligible for an ABLE account, you would also want to monitor to that $100,000 limit to ensure that you're retaining eligibility for your benefits. I also think the $100,000 limit is, so it's not a contribution limit, it's a resource limit, which means you would spend down to kind of keep your assets under that threshold.
Okay. Looking to see if there's any more. There's a lot of comments, people, how does it affect Maine Care?
So because we had those special provisions passed in the Maine State Legislature, ABLE resources are not counted as resources for any state means tested benefit program. So that would include Maine Care. Right,
and Jay has a question, actually two questions. Maine allowances regarding the estate recovery. If ABLE accounts is through other state plans, Maine's IRS code regarding tax exemptions, out-of-state accounts?
I can definitely speak to the first question. So the question is, what will Maine do? Will Maine allow estate recovery if the ABLE account is through another state's plan? Yes, the way the legislation is written is that ABLE Maine accounts are not subject to. So maybe you can clarify the question. So is it you have an account in another state and you're receiving Maine care? Is Maine going to try and recover those assets? Is that the question? Okay.
Yes, okay.
Yes. So Maine will not seek to recover ABLE funds. It is possible that another state is, so if you've received benefits, like state benefits in another state, and they don't have a law against Medicaid recovery, they could come after an ABLE Maine account to recover those funds. So you would want to look at a good way to check that is using the ABLE National Resource Center. They have information on all state programs, and Medicaid recovery is one of the options that they report on. So you can see, like, for Texas, does Texas do Medicaid recovery for ABLE accounts? I wanted to go back to Jeff's second part of his question. So Maine IRS code regarding tax exemption for out-of-state accounts. I don't believe that there is any state tax exemption for Maine at this point.
Okay. And then somebody is asking, and I think we should just clarify. So should we keep the limit to 100,000 to not affect Maine care? So I would suggest for this type of question, or for this sort of in-depth questioning, to refer to like a benefits or tax advisor. I'm not sure if Maine Care has a $100,000 resource limit, but all of these things are, you guys have great questions. So this is all stuff that is really important to consider before opening an ABLE account. Yeah, I'll
really
look
good
into that
questions.
also from the
Okay.
society's end. We'll look into this question to see, you know, how we should look at that. Another question: when making the annual report to Social Security or Maine Care, should the ABLE account be reported?
I would say yes. And we do, so the bank, the ABLE Maine program, does report information about ABLE accounts to the Social Security Administration monthly. So we are reporting that information as well. I think it's always best to, you know, provide clear and accurate information, and then just know that for Maine Care, those resources wouldn't be counted. But I think it's important to share that they exist.
Not seeing any more. Oh, here's one. This account is an asset.
I would need clarification on that statement, I think.
Dolores, do you want to add a little bit more to what you're talking about by asset?
Perhaps she's typing while she's doing that. I just want to say thank you to you, Cathy, and to Autism Society of Maine for asking us to do this webinar and for taking care of all of the coordination and registration and promotion. It's really been great. We really appreciate your partnership and are so glad to be connected with you. So thank you again.
You're very welcome. Here's Dolores's response. when doing the annual reports, they, as if any assets have been added or revoked, is that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think what she's saying, she was perhaps speaking to, oh, yes, it was the same. When making annual reports to SS or Maine Care, should the ABLE account be reported? So yes, it would be an asset, but that asset would be disregarded for eligibility determination for Maine Care and Social Security, as long as the individual is eligible.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions for Mikayla? And even if you don't get your questions here and you come up with more, please feel free to email me or Mikayla, and we can certainly try to get those questions answered for you.
Yeah, so you can visit any branch that's local to you. You can also call our Bangor support number. I'll give that number. It's 1-877-226-4671. I'm also typing it in the chat. So that would be a great place to call, and you know, we're happy to talk this through with you. We understand, perhaps as well as anyone else, it is very complicated, and there are often a lot of questions and things that are just specific to individual circumstances. So it's not a one size fits all, and you know, we're happy to have those one-on-one conversations with you.
Yes, and I agree with that. I think families and individuals themselves need to make what's the best for them, and if it fits their need. So I'm happy that you were able to put something together that individuals and that families could understand. And now we'll have it posted and we'll have this forever, right?
Yes, very exciting.
So if there's no more questions, I do want to thank Josh for his services, and
yes,
I think that's it. We are good, and I thank everybody for participating today.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.